session? What?
It's 4430.
So if we've gone through personnel, you would start with
Contractual services. I mean, we can start with materials and supplies, which is basically just $300 for the little, for any mailings that we send out to businesses or property owners. That's basically what that is, and we'll be doing a mailing soon for the storefront renovation program as soon as the county gets us the final guidelines for this year's program. So that would be.
The storefront renovation program. I know it's a small amount. Do you have email addresses for the storefronts that we're going to get? As Meg said, and as others, could they be sent by email?
As many property owners as I can will send by email. There'll be, most of our May Green owners, I have their email. There'll be a few that will be required to send out through standardized mail.
and oftentimes Mike will actually, like last year, go out and hand deliver.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the functions too, being able to at least see our businesses on a once-a-year basis, hopefully more, but get in there at least once a year. And this is a good way to do it through storefront renovation. So that's kind of the materials and supplies line item. The primary expense under contractual services is related to the city planning process, which I'll let Keith talk about, and then go from there.
As you're aware, we've received, there's $35,000 budgeted this year for city planner and consultants. And as you're aware, we earlier this year, I applied for and received a $30,000 grant from Cuyahoga County Department of Development, CDBG funds, for comprehensive master planning update for 2013. As and I'll mention it again for people in the room who've not been here before. Every 10 years, it is a suggestion through county planning organizations and OACA that cities go through master plan updates. The last comprehensive master plan update was in 1999.
Keith, are we still on the same section?
Yes, we're still on the same section.
Contractual services.
Contractual services. Right.
Didn't we do a partial update like in 2004,
Yes.
2000?
We did, in 1999, City Council approved a comprehensive master plan update. In 2004, there was a master plan update for the Cedar Center district. And then in 2011, there was, for 2012, there was an update for the Oakwood district.
Does the current the current master plan or what we're going to do apparently this year, is that going to include economic planning at all?
It's not a strategic plan, it's planning.
Well, we are looking at, as part of this plan, we are looking at economic, we're looking at everything. We're looking at strategic plans, we're looking at land use planning, we're looking at economic plans, we're looking at our business districts, we're looking at our parks and properties, it's going to be, in recreation, it's going to be all encompassing.
And it's going to include people from the community to give input?
Yes, unlike our previous comprehensive master plan updates, there will be a steering committee, a resident-driven steering committee that will be created that will drive the process and make the recommendations to the planning commission. The planning commission will then review and make recommendations to city council as part of that process.
Keep on that 30,000, is that if the grant that you received, will a portion of that be used for the planner and the consultant?
Yes, correct.
So all of it?
All of it, and then we have a match, so you see the $35,000 total. So our match is around $5,000.
Okay.
So now that $30,000 is, again, we're getting that money, it's a reimbursement grant. So we have to budget the money, and then as we move forward, we'll be reimbursed.
The only other thing under contractual services is related to real property surveys and appraisals. I put in $2,500 for that. Of course, last year, the expense, the $1,800 was related to appraisals for the bus garage, and the $2,500 is in there primarily because we never know what kind of property we might get through the tax foreclosure process. Like last year, we had that parking lot, which we had to have appraised, and then we got the money back in the sales price. So, we have no way of knowing what kind of strange pieces of property we could end up with this year. But obviously, those are good things because they end up netting us a little bit of money at the end of the year. I think from the parking lot, it was $15,000, I believe. It might have been a little less than that, so.
When I went through, this may be an appropriate time just to go through the comprehensive master plan process and just give you a couple bullet points about what we're going to go through this year, what our objectives are, our opportunities that I wrote as part of our RFP. It was to develop solutions for upgrading and maintaining the city's aging infrastructure, making streets pedestrian friendly and consistent with the high quality image and character of our community. Reinvent the city's business districts with an emphasis on their individual identity and creating a memorable customer experience in each. Reinforce the city's green infrastructure, the network of trailways, parks, and natural features that tie our community together. And maintain the neighborhoods of South Euclid from traditional neighborhoods to new developments, making sure that there are attractive housing choices for young professionals, families, empty nesters, and seniors that are enjoyable and fulfilling.
Can I get a copy of that?
Absolutely.
So how does economic planning mesh with those particular goals?
Economic development planning.
Yeah.
We're going to be looking as part of this as to some best practices that we could use in terms of, I'll use an example as the Mayfield and Green District. How can we work as partners with the businesses and the property owners to not only beautify the Mayfield Green District, attract new businesses, get the owners to actually participate in sort of renovation programs to improve their businesses, streetscape planning, so public-private partnerships, so we can go and hopefully attract some grant funding so that we can do some major streetscape in our key business district areas like Mayfield and Green, and then look at actual economic development strategies. How can we better utilize our CRAs? How can we form joint economic development districts or special improvement districts? For example, Coventry and Lee Road and Cleveland Heights are both special improvement districts where the business owners have gotten together and they actually tax themselves to help pay for improvements in their business district. Now, I think we're a few years down the road in being able to do that based on the business owners, especially in the Mayfield and Green area. But I think that we need to start, in terms of our long-term planning, which is what our comprehensive plan does, putting that out on the table as something to work towards.
The planning process definitely provides us with a clear direction and also provides us with the evidence needed to be able to go get additional grant funding, especially for streetscape and other improvements on Mayfield. And, of course, sometimes you see, like with the Euclid Corridor project, generally, it requires infrastructure investment, it requires streetscape amenities to be able to attract the better businesses to the
Maybe I didn't understand this, but I was referring more to economic planning to what Chief Houston said the other night regarding planning for the future as far as our city and our staffing, and our personal services are concerned. Is that going to be part of this, or that's something else that we're going to deal with? Excuse me. Keith, do you understand?
Yeah, I'm not quite.
Are we going to have any? Excuse me. Are we going to?
I guess.
Well, let me, my question is simple. Keith and I communicate very well. Are we going to have, Chief Houston was talking about economic planning in terms of personnel, in terms of maintaining personnel, improving services, personnel services, fire, police, and other services. Is this going to be part of the economic planning, or is that something else?
Well, in terms of In terms of economic development planning overall, in terms of personnel services, I think that it needs to be holistic and comprehensive. I think that as it stands right now, obviously, we have to do more with less, because it's Mike and me out there. We have started this support arm, which is One South Euclid. And as One South Euclid grows, we see that as a real potential arm that can be utilized for economic development initiatives, that we can actually use then as a vehicle to form joint economic development districts and special improvement districts, and attract new economic investment in the area. So in those terms, yes, we look towards growth in the future. As it stands right now, however, in terms of personnel,
So in that thing, and I appreciate that, but in that particular thing, and I know that we're going to get money if those things don't come to fruition. But in terms of what the chief was talking about, do we have anything in place? Are there any things that we've looked at, or we're going to look at, in order to do a viable economic plan for our personnel? Is there anything out there on the horizon that we look at?
to bring on new personnel?
No, just looking.
City operations in general,
Right,
not
exactly.
specific to economic development.
The answer is no. As of right
A
now.
business plan.
There is.
I think there's, I hear what
What do we need to do to get to that? I mean, assuming that we want to go that way, we want to have a quote-unquote business plan. What steps do we need to take, or do you know?
I'd have to do some research in terms of business planning for administrative operations.
Maybe James,
Well, I'm just answering, I don't think that what you're talking about covers.
Okay.
So,
I mean, we're talking east side of the
so
state.
let me ask my question, because I think this is
Jane, Mo.
where we're trying to go. So all of this sounds like opportunities for this, and how we go about that, and learning about this, and thinking about that, and when I think what we're looking for is how much are we going to need this year, next year, that year? And not based on what we needed last year and all this, add 10% here, take 10%, guess about this. What is the goal? What do we want to have in the bank? How are we going to get there? And that's the business plan model, even though I'm the first one to say we're not a business, we don't make widgets. We can't just willy-nilly increase the price of our widgets, or in our case, taxes. So I think we want to know how this, at least I want to know, how this is going to contribute to that, or do we still then have to go out and get a consultant to build us the roadmap to get us to a point where we know in 10 years we're gonna need this much, and the union rates are gonna go up this much, and we're gonna need this many more people, and that's what that's what a strategic plan is.
Right.
This is not a strategic plan. What are the changes? Is it possible to conceive of us entering into a strategic planning process in the next couple of years? Are there grants out there for that?
Yes. And that is all part of it.
Because
I
all of this
apologize,
is
I didn't
nice,
understand.
but there's no goal. There's no
Well,
dollar.
I apologize if I wasn't as specific, but within, and I can give you the plan for you to look at, but it is pretty specific in how do we get to the point where we can leverage the assets that we currently have to build our tax base, that's what we're getting down to build our tax base, to increase our revenues, our property taxes, our income tax revenue that we receive. You know, I think that over the last 3 years, you know, Mike and Ed and myself, and working with TransDigm, TransDigm Air Control has expanded twice. We kept them here in the city from moving to Lake County. Last year, Mike worked very closely with Gent Machine to do the same. Gent was already looking at signing a lease out, also out in Lake County. And we were able to keep Gent Machine here with, you know, the assistance of City Council. I think that we need to look at, especially our industrial corridor area. We are just launching, I just submitted an application on Sunday to the state for funding for the Circle Heights Economic Development Initiative, which looks at, University Circle has a problem right now, is that they have a lot of jobs being created, but they don't have the real estate to house those jobs, these startup jobs. So Mike and the Heights Area Regional Chamber of Commerce have been working on this initiative now for well over a year, and to come up with a strategy of, well, how can we attract those jobs here to South Euclid and our neighboring communities where we can grow, and then maybe at some point they grow too much and they have to move back, or they move down into University Circle or to a new building built in Midtown. But then what are the strategies then for tax sharing and all of those other infrastructure things that we would need to put in place?
Is any of this, and I absolutely respect how much our economic development efforts have done and grown. They've been 80% reactionary. Air Controls was going to move away, we kept them. Jet was going to move away, oops, we kept them. Great creative problem solving and solutions and wonderful things in the storefront. I mean, you've been doing great, but I live on measurable goals.
Mm-hmm.
And so, will this have,
Yes.
I mean, if you don't
There
know
will
where
be-
you're going, you
there
can't
will be-
draw a map.
There will be measurable goals. You know, what we need to see
How
and
many
what we need to do.
residents, what they need to
Right.
make, what it
Right.
generates in tax income.
Yes.
Okay.
And what we need, and also what we need to provide as a city to be competitive with our neighbors. You know, Cleveland Heights has a revolving economic development loan fund to assist their storefronts. The county recently changed their storefront renovation policies, which makes it very unattractive for any business owner to renovate their storefront on Mayfield Road or anywhere else in South Euclid. It's a bad plan that the county's put forth. One of the goals with One South Euclid is that we could raise enough money in the next year that we will be able to implement and start an economic development loan fund like Cleveland Heights has, like Shaker Heights has.
Micro-lending, in other words.
Yes.
Right, because I mean, when you look at the budget, ultimately, we don't have economic development programming in the city of South Euclid, which is something our neighboring communities have. And that hopefully this plan helps provide us with the direction.
Okay, Mo and then Marty.
No, I think, just to take off on what Ed asked, I think after we've completed the master plan update, after we've done all of that, we can then take the next step and do a strategic plan that will help us develop our strategies for employment, for dollars, whatever it takes to keep us moving. And I think that's what we're really after.
And we could do that.
You know, what Ed asked is very,
Yeah.
it depends on what comes out of the plan. Okay, if the plan provides us with the direction as to where we're supposed to be for the next 10 years, that plan has got to include what are our requirements for employment, for finances, whatever. And then we do need a plan to put it together.
And it's investing in our neighborhoods too, it's housing. It's, you know, again, when it comes down to it, the majority of our communities are, as you well know, we're bedroom communities. So, you know, we need to look at strategies that keep middle-class homeowners here in South Euclid and attract new middle-class families to live in South Euclid as well. And that needs to be part of
That'd
it.
be part of
I
it.
apologize, I didn't understand immediately.
No,
what
that's
you're
fine.
saying.
I just think that we need to look at different models. I'm sure
I
that
agree.
Harry Disbelieved or and some of these other places may have something, I mean, not everything's gonna fit in
There's-
South Euclid, but there's probably
Right.
half a dozen of them out there that we can do. And there's no reason we can't mesh these together.
There's
because
two, right, they could go
You're gonna need
concurrently.
police and fire when you, if you
Right.
develop new, I mean, we got Oakland, we're gonna have to cover Oakland.
Right.
I mean, we don't have any choice, it's part of our deal, and that's fire and police.
Right.
And so, we need to, my idea is at least we need to mesh these together.
This year,
Is there any reason why we can't do them
we
contemporaneously?
can. What my suggestion is that Mike and I will sit down and this year, as I move forward with the community planning efforts, Mike can focus on those economic development efforts and strategies. And we could do this concurrently. Because that was our goal in terms of, through the One South Euclid arm, was to have enough money so that next year we could launch an economic development loan program. So we can work on that this year. We can make that one of our goals.